Welcome.
Well, welcome to the Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You podcast. My name is Sean Langwell, and I am your host. If you like honest, vulnerable, and real stories about what it takes to not only become great, but self-confident and bold enough to be yourself, then this show is for you. Each of my guests started out as extraordinary or ordinary people. Some have become extraordinary, just like you and me, and have accomplished extraordinary things in their lives to be considered great masters or experts at what they have been called to do. Join me each episode for inspiring, encouraging, and meaningful conversations with diverse people from all walks of life and industry. Leaders and brave individuals who offer unique insights into the fields of arts, entertainment, business, finance, technology, healthcare, sports, psychology, recovery, self-improvement, personal growth, and so much more. Whether you are in the same field as my guest or not, I guarantee you will walk away from each episode feeling better about yourself and inspired to take the next bold step toward your own goals and aspirations. Your life will improve if you dare to be great and dare to be you. And we have somebody who just won that is definitely qualified as great. We have Mindi Levine, the host of Mindy in the Morning at KRSH Radio in Santa Rosa. Welcome, Mindy.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you're on the show.
Fun to be.
And you just won. Was this the second year in a row or the first time that you won Bohemia's Best DJ in the North Bay?
First time since I've been at the Crush and that award. So when I was at KVYN, I was at the Vine, which I'm sure
Okay.
we'll get into, in Napa. I won Best Media Personality, and that's the other Bohemian Award that's coming up. So they
All
have
right.
it's the first of this one, and it's the first for the Crush. So yeah.
Well, it's not every day that I actually get to hold true to the title where somebody is quote unquote the best. But you know what? We're all our best in our own way. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, we're going to give a little bit of bio here, is just to have a conversation because people who I don't get to know who my audience is. I don't have
Right.
metrics. I have an idea, but there's people literally from all walks of life and industry, and a lot of them are creatives, and a lot of them are also interested in marketing. So we're going to touch on that briefly. But what about you? Inspired by the music of the Beach Boys, Mindy left her childhood home of New Jersey to head to sunny California and has never looked back, she says. Some of her career highlights are publicist for the Mystic Theater right here in Petaluma, English teacher in the inner city. I want to talk about that a little bit later. Marketing director for the Uptown Theater in Napa, which is an awesome theater. She once sold all of her earthly possessions and moved to Prague, Czech Republic, all by herself.
Mhm.
Music is at the center of her life. When not playing on the Mindy in the Morning show, she may be found playing drums or guitar with friends. When referring to her gift of gab, Mindy's mom was often heard saying, "This one, she came out talking." I love that.
Yeah.
So let's just give people a quick overview of where you came from. I know you got a English degree from Sonoma State in 94. So how did you
Yeah.
go from, let's start there, and we don't have to talk
Okay.
about childhood stuff unless
Yeah.
you want to, but from that, you didn't study journalism per se, but you got English. How did you get in from there into a little bit of teaching and now as the best DJ in the North Bay?
Yeah. So I've never had like a linear story. I've always had one of those multiple paths, which in many ways have diverged here at the Crushwood. But back to your question. So going back to being in um, grammar school and starting the school paper, I was always interested in journalism.
Okay.
I got to Sonoma and I was editor of the high school paper. And I had always had an interest in journalism. When I got to Sonoma State, I joined the paper and then I joined the student productions board, which was the events and all of that. And eventually, let's just say the live events and the concerts and that one out. So I started,
Well, yeah, I mean that's a lot
yeah.
of work too. And my wife, who's been on your show, Chrissy, is was
Mhm.
part of the entertainment queen at the Press Democrat and trying to
Right.
collate and collect all those stories, and there's so many. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I started getting about, and that's how I met a lot of people. You mentioned the Mystic Theater, and I met my mentor in the business. I never knew there was a music business that I could be part of per se as a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like these doors opened as I started going, moving through things. And while I was at Sonoma State doing all that and discovering, oh, I have a flair for talking. They're like, you're a publicist. You know, I was like
Right.
into music and they're like, you're a entertainment marketing. Like that's how I kind of discovered it. But I also was an English major and I had my literary yearnings. And the reason I moved to Prague is because I was into Rilke and Kafka and Bohemian writers and wanted to live in Bohemia and be a writer.
Okay.
So yeah, I had these kind of diverging interests, but the radio came more so with marketing because I would go on to radio shows and talk about like the Uptown Theater. I'm Napa. I would just go talk about the shows, and they were like, "Oh, you're fun. Come back and hang out and talk more about shows."
So this was kind of a natural fit for you, it sounds like, right?
And then one day they were like, "Well, the afternoon gal is pregnant. Would you like to be afternoon drive?" And then I sort of never left.
My God.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool though how it happens? Because you didn't obviously you didn't go to school
No.
pursuing an entertainment and media
Uh-uh.
career. I am one of those weird, freaky unicorns that actually went to school to get a business degree, and I immediately fell in love with marketing and advertising, and I've been in that industry for 33 years, which is just it's mind blowing, but there's just something about it from a marketing standpoint and a people perspective. You know, one of the things that
Yes.
we talked about is you're a relationship marketing guru. And I can see with our relationship with the California Writers Club, the Redwood branch of the California Writers Club, Copperfields, Mindi in the morning, and your ability to pull these folks together. Granted, it was really set up with a handful of people. Rebecca Rosenberg, in particular, I believe, set it up. But you've had RW, who's one of their leaders at Copperfields, my wife, who's the president of Redwood Writers. So you are
Yeah, I finish up
networking.
Melissa, yeah, our team too, and Nikki, our
And Nick,
people too. Yeah.
on your, yeah, and I don't know who are all the people on your team that are helping out because this
So
is a
Melissa
big job.
Galliani, she met, I think, Rebecca and Chrissy at a party, you know, like at a networky thing, and they started talking and was like, "Oh, Mindy wants to do a literary blah blah." Next thing you know, this thing, and Nikki, she brought in the Hey Copperfields, you know, so it all kind of came, and I had just from the beginning been like, I was an English major, like English, let's bring some lit, and it was just waiting for the right, you know, all the stars to align, and it did.
And that's
With
so
that, you
cool
know.
because you're open and flexible to it. And for those who are listening to this show for the first time or the 20th time, don't try and figure all this stuff out. You don't have to get your ducks in a row before life continues forward. And that's a message I always repeat to people because you just don't know. You got to be bold enough to open your mouth and just and receptive to get,
Yes.
oh, let's do this. So,
Well, I
um,
think, you know, it's a bunch of thoughts. One is the timeline has changed. Like when we were younger, dare I say, um, it was like by 30, you had to have your shit together. You know, you had to have your
right.
kids and your career and your house and blah, 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 but whatever. Now it's like New York Times article, you know, people are buying their first homes in their 50s and 60s. Like everything has changed. People, every woman doesn't have to have her babies. Like it's all sort of the timeline. So I
Hmm.
feel like us late bloomers are like having a moment because we're like, hey, all these things actually make sense in a world where before we were chastised for not choosing a single path or a moment. And I say, for me, this has been right. You know, and you have to be, people are like, oh, lucky. No, you're ready when the luck comes, you know?
Well, yeah, and there's an old saying, I don't know if it was Confucius or whoever, but when the student is ready, the teacher will appear type of thing. And that's the receptivity and that's the being willing and re receptive to seeing the stuff when it comes our way, like a boat when you're almost in your middle of a
Right.
flood, jumping into the boat and not going,
Yeah.
well, I think I'm gonna wait for a yacht. I mean, no, jump in the freaking boat.
Right. Well,
You
it's that
know?
whole improv. Like I do a little bit of studying a little like acting and just improv. And anyway, the whole thing with improv is yes and, right? And you just
Right.
apply it to life. Never say, no, actually, yes, and if you do, right? Yes, and is everything.
Yes, and I want to go back to you touched on it briefly at the Mystic. Let's go back there. I had a
Yeah.
rare
Opened up
opportunity.
the Mystic with Sheila Groves.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
and she was that's what I was going to
She
ask.
was
Is
my
she your
boss.
mentor?
So I was, okay. So this goes back to your relationship marketing thing. I'm going to pull something full circle. So at the time I had this boyfriend anyway, and he was like, whether or not you're as skilled as other people, you're going to go far in life and farther than me because of your personality. And I was like, that sounds like you're giving me an insult, but I feel like it's a compliment. And shortly thereafter, this person that he's like always wanted to sort of work for called me and offered me a job. It was Sheila Groves, and I was still in college. She plucks me out, and I was like, well, there's your example. Like I had no experience. It was just relationship. And that relationship has mentored me throughout changed my career, my whole 30, 40 years later.
And so was she a mentor? I mean, did she just
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
teach you all the stuff? Because I had to work
Right.
with a lot of publicists in my advertising career and
Yes.
ad executives and agency owners, if you will, as well as CEOs and business owners. But some of the funnest people I work with, and also the biggest pains in the asses are the publicists because they're so tenacious.
They're
It's like,
tenacious. Right.
come
Well,
on.
she was
I'm
the
on the
biggest.
ad side. You buy an ad. I'm not going to help you with
Right.
PR. Talk to the editors. I'm sorry.
Well, right. But she was the owner, right, of the bit. Like I was her right hand. So I was kind of her publicist. It was great because I would go out and I would be like, on their legs to try to get what we wanted, where she didn't have to do as
Sure.
much. But anyway, yes, the point, what I was getting back to the relationship marketing is until 100% of the AI robots take us over, it's still going to be the relationships with people
Yep.
that advance you in life, that will always advance you, especially Sean, in anything having to do with entertainment, culture, anything.
So
Because,
let's talk
it's
about that for a sec because you've got firsthand real world experience for probably a decade, if not two or more, of what it takes, not just from a publicity standpoint, but to nurture those relationships. Because I'm a lot of people that listen to the show are artists and creatives, and by
yeah,
nature they're introverts and they're scared to death of their own freaking shadow
yes,
when all they're doing is storytelling. So how could you? Let's turn it away from you and I for a
yeah,
second
yeah.
because you and I are both
Oh, what?
used to doing this, but what kind of
Yeah,
suggestions or walk people through what it took, even though you didn't know what it was like, you had a mentor. How do you go reach out to radio stations and newspapers, et cetera, to get the word out? Because this is a big part of the marketing equation that most authors and even entrepreneurs, quite frankly, they suck at it because they
right,
don't know what they don't know.
right. Well, the thing is, I think first and foremost, don't approach it like it's a transactional relationship, which it
Okay.
actually is on a level, but don't approach it that way. In other
Right.
words, don't, for example, reach out to somebody only when you need a favor, only
Yes.
like, and not being a jerk, but nurture a relationship. Call them when you absolutely don't need anything. You know,
Hmm.
just nurture a relationship outside of transactional. Then when you do want to ask to be whatever it is, a recommendation, or be in my case, be on the list or whatever, then you're not seen as, oh, this person, you're going to take my call, you're going to take my email or whatever. And meet people nowadays, meet people where they are. It used to be in person was always the best. Now, some people may prefer it another way. So know what your target person, how they like to communicate. Um,
That's really important because I have to do it with my clients too, Mindy. Some prefer email, some
right,
cannot. They're just fearful to death of talking on the phone. And
right.
that's just kind of
Yeah,
how I grew up. But I
exactly.
have to respect that. And some are super responsive with text.
Right.
To me,
Just
text
depend,
annoys the
right,
hell out of me. And you and I set this up because we had a transactional thing to get this dialed in, but and it
right.
works. It's efficient. So I think that's really important. I don't want to just gloss over that. What
Yeah.
else, though? You've got meet people where they are, not transactional.
I
What
mean, I
about,
think
go
also,
ahead.
well, whatever industry or whatever it is, you're there because you have common interests. So connect with the person on a human level of their interests, and it is a relationship. So do get to know the names of their kids, and not like in a cheesy and not to diss on sales, but I mean
Sure.
like not in a superficial way. But as I found over the years, these people may actually become friends. You know, you
Right.
end up like being friends with some of these people. But I think don't discount. Okay, find the perfect Zen balance between persistence and annoyance. Like
Hmm.
like my boss, for example, she'll always be like, he wasn't persistent enough. Like I heard from him once and then I just didn't, and that counted against this person, right? And also you were just busy. Like maybe we just need you to email us a couple times. Okay, fine. But then there's the person where I'm like, you are now blocked. You will
Hmm.
never be on my ship because you've guilted me. Now you've don't ever assume that the person owes you anything. That's the other thing. When you're coming at somebody, I can't tell you how many people make an assumption because they think they tick the boxes that you should whatever.
That's actually really important because that ties into our, not just assumptions, but because I have something and I have a couple clients and they're in the they were TV anchors, so they know the game just the same way you did.
Right,
And they're
right.
persistent, even though I've
Yeah,
said numerous times, love them to death, but my God, sometimes it's like, no, you don't need to tell me 20 times. We got the
right,
press release. I directed it over to where it needs to be.
right,
And if you want to run an ad to promote this, if it's that important to you, then I can
right.
help you. Otherwise, it's out of my hands. But
Right. And
that's
a
just,
little bit before that, you were like, you know what? But I'm doing it just to because you're bugging me. Like they do get somewhere with it, right?
no, but there is this
But there's the too
perception
much.
that they assume that you
Oh, that.
sometimes
Yes.
owe them
Right.
this thing because it's so great, and it's
100%.
it's
Yeah.
not always,
Right. People are like, in my case, it's like Sonoma grown. They're like, I grew up here. I'm Sonoma grown. I made a song, and I trust me, I respect and love that. But that doesn't 100, you're also competing with a new Van Morrison song. Like,
Right.
so it has to be, right? So that doesn't automatically just because you are from here and you made a song.
So just out of curiosity, because I got
Yeah.
a weird background too, part of my 10 years of my career was at Mix Magazine, an electronic
Oh,
musician. My role
okay.
was actually in somewhat in your
That,
realm of world of
right.
entertainment,
Well, I
going to
worked for
recording.
Imagine Publishing, and we had an electronic magazine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Future Publishing. Yeah.
So actually that you were there right when I was leaving Mix Magazine because I left there in 2001 right after 9/11. So yeah. Um but it put me into recording studios and it
Uh-huh.
gave me this flavor of what that industry is and being able to have conversations with folks. And I don't know where the hell I was going to go with this line other than, you
We're
know,
talking about local and people like thinking they were because they fit all those criteria, they're Sonoma grown.
right. And I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know anything about the music industry. I'm not a musician, I'm not a performer.
Right,
And here I am being tasked with going to have these conversations to sell advertising to people when I don't even know the nature of their business.
right.
And what happened to me, to come back to kind of full circle on the show, is your mentorship with Sheila, is there was an editor. He was a writer and he introduced me, and so did some of the other publishers, introduced me to people and made it easy for me to start to learn the language.
Hmm.
So I think
Right.
it's important to take a chance on yourself is kind of what I'm getting at. And,
Yeah. Well, it's funny because yeah, hindsight 2020 or whatever. Like my whole life, I feel like people have always been like, but what's your thing? You know what I mean? Because other
oh
people,
God, yeah.
whatever business law, this, that. And I was like, I've always sort of struck. Now I'm like, well, my thing, the best DJ, best media personality. Like, I'm my thing. I don't know how else to say it. But you know what I mean? There isn't what like tennis. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't have a
Right.
tennis thing. Like, this is it.
So where I was going with the other thing too, Mindy, was when I
Yeah.
was going to ask you, do people hit you up to get their songs on the show? That's where I was going with the whole recording of.
Oh, that's what I was saying. That was exactly what I was referring to. That yes, because that is my job as the program director. So I don't just I book program my own the morning show mini in the morning, but also the Crush 24/7. I program the whole station.
Oh my God, I didn't realize that.
Right. And everything that goes on air, program director. So I kind of wear two hats. I'm Mindy in the morning, but I'm also program director. So all the DJs, everybody reports to me, not Bill and Bob Sala. They're their own guys, but you know what I mean? I'm
Right.
oversee the whole deal and choose all the music for the station. It's a huge responsibility. It's an epic responsibility.
Yes.
This is, I mean, people literally were like, we're giving you, it's a cherished, like, what's the word for like a national treasure, you know, um, don't F it up.
Yeah.
Knock wood, I've been doing what we're doing. If you, I mean, we do have a certain amount of criteria numbers and we're way up, so that's great. Um,
Oh,
but yeah,
that's awesome. And just
so
for not that anybody necessarily will get anything
yes,
out of this, but since you do it day in and day out,
yeah.
what are some of the tips that you could give people?
Oh
Because it
gosh,
does get hit up.
yes,
How do you say
yes,
no? Like my ex ad director used to say, how do you say no to somebody and have them enjoy the trip?
yes. So, which I've got, I think I've gotten pretty good at it, but there's things that I will say out of the gate. Start with this. Listen to the, sorry, can I curse? No, I can't.
You can say whatever you want. It's my show,
Listen to the fucking station. Like, don't send
right?
me your speed core metal and then taking my time. Not like I'm so important, but like it ain't ever gonna be played on the crush, right? So
Right.
at least know what you're saying. Don't just give me a blanket because you don't have the time. I don't have the time. So let's start there. And if you're blanketing, fine, but then don't be like, did you listen? Did you listen? And I would be like, did you think I was this other station? Because it's right. Okay. So start there. Know what you're, and this 1000% applies to whatever person watching this or listening is whoever you're pitching, be it an, a
And that's
publisher,
marketing. No, I'm going
agent,
to interrupt you just for that's
marketing,
marketing
know who you're
101.
marketing to.
Know your freaking audience.
Oh, you froze for a sec. Wait,
Oops. Got
you're
me?
frozen. Let's
I got you.
see, how do I restart this? Yeah. Okay. How about if I do this?
There you go.
There we go. Okay. Now
You got me still?
I got you now. Yeah.
Okay. So really what I was saying is no number one in marketing 101 is know your freaking audience.
Exactly. And the number of people that don't, I'm like, really? And they'll be like, what could I do to, so, okay, so start there. So just be thoughtful about who you're sending to. Um, and the other thing is like, even though I have an English degree, I don't have time to read a novella.
Hmm.
Please hit me with the even bullet points. At some point I want to read your beautiful bio and your long, but I don't have the time in the day to day, to be honest. So hit me some bullet points. And dear God in heaven, don't send me something that I have to go looking for. Don't make me have to click on four links and give me a password that I'm gone. Again, not being a jerk. It's just there's only this much time.
Well, yeah.
So, and here's the other thing. And I've told people this, like literally that I've worked with them, like, you didn't ask for advice, but let me give it to you. With what I do and so many people coming at me with the music, I establish relationships with key people so that it cuts a lot of my time. It's for me because I trust these people. They know what I like. We help each other out, and we rely on each other, if you will, right? The people that just email me and just email are just not getting they're just not. So again, that's me saying what I prefer, but like to me, give me like don't give me something that I won't. Be honest. It's like the old sales thing again. Tell me the dress doesn't look good. I will come in your shop for the rest of my life. If I put on a dress and you say, you know what, I gotta be honest with you, it's not flattering.
Yeah.
You've got me for life. You know what I mean?
But that what you just said there too, Mindy, is what a lot of people overlook is they feel that they have to say the right thing. They overthink it to death. And instead of being honest with kindness, I mean,
Right.
there's this balance between
Always.
like you talked about earlier of being annoying versus Zen-like. And there's an art to it. But my God, be truthful. Don't bullshit people. And
Right.
flattery is going to backfire on you every single time. So, I mean, you let people down, do they get all ticked off because they're insistent on wanting to do it? I'm sure there's going to be a handful of those folks, but you know, um,
Yeah, I mean, I try to do my best to let people know if if I'm certain that I'm not going to play it. Like if I genuinely need to spend some more time, I'll probably say like I need a little more time. It sounds interesting or thanks for sending. But I try to, for the most part, let people off the hook if I know it's just not gonna, because I would want that, you know? So I
Right.
just be like, I think I love what you're doing, but to be honest with you, this would sound good on the river or whatever. You know what I mean? Like this isn't,
Sure.
it's not crushy enough, but keep in touch. And people are so appreciative and generally I find very gracious because I've given them an honest answer and I didn't keep them, strung along, you know.
No, and giving them an alternative, making it easy for them to step away without it being personal and still being helpful and coming back to the station mix of it's not
Yeah,
crunchy enough. That's an easy phrase that you can just use as much
not
as you
crushy
want.
enough. I mean,
It's
yeah,
just not crunchy enough. And I have to face it on occasion with this show. For the most part, I get to direct who I want. And I had one person on, then I got hit up by three or four others, and I was like, I
sure.
don't really know you, but you know what? Let's give it a shot because it's practice for me, and
Right.
it all works out. I'm grateful that you came on the show because we didn't have an agenda. I have not listened to The Crush at all, in all honesty, and that's shame on me for not doing that. But I didn't want it to be about programming per se. I
Right.
wanted it to be about
Yeah.
personality, and you are the best DJ in the North Bay for a reason because you've got a personality that radiates. And I just picked up on that from our brief conversations, what you're already doing with Redwood writers. And let's shift gears for a little bit to kind of give some people, because you've been doing this a long time, you could qualify as an expert. What advice would you give people for showing up to be their truest selves? And this can help your guests that have not yet been on your show, i.e., Redwood writers or other Copperfields writers and authors, but also just in general, because people have this that happens when it starts talking about, and even me, talking about self-promotion
Yeah.
sucks.
Right.
Writing my own book blurb sucks, and I have to practice it a little bit before it comes out naturally. So,
Right.
what, from your perspective, to kind of coach people, if you will, before they're on the show or even not on the show, what would you say to them?
I mean, I think all of it comes down to, I think, um, the award means a lot to me because it was the people voted for it. It's not a critics, and I've said, like the critics, so it means something resonates with people. And I think it's that I'm genuine. Like, would you hear me on the air? Of course, I'm not talking about stuff that's super personal, but I mean, for the most part, you're hearing what's me, and
Hmm.
people connect with that, and it's the more positive me because I, frankly, that's part of my job, and people have
Sure.
said nice things. But anyway, back to your what I would advise people is show up, period. Just keep showing up. Like the amount of people that get real excited and then trail off at the end. The person that stays the longest wins the spoils. So right there, I would say, like, if you want a thing, keep on showing up for the thing. Like if you look at my resume, you'll see I was on the Crush in 2012. For 1 year, I was on the weekend, not live, like a very small, people don't even kind of remember it. But I never stopped keeping in touch because I always wanted to be at the Crush in the end. So I've been showing up since you see that. And before that, like meaning, so that's a big part of it. Just show up.
Yeah, and that is a big part of it. And staying resilient, staying persistent. I mean, here's where you and I probably wouldn't even be talking right now if it wasn't for me continuing to want to show up. Out of college, I got a marketing and business degree from San Francisco State. I immediately wanted a job in my backyard, so I applied to the Press Democrat.
Hmm.
Didn't get it. Applied again, didn't get it. Ended up going here, there, and everywhere and applied again and didn't get it. And it's because I didn't have at that time in the mid 90s, there was a lot of it was more transactional. You talked about transactional earlier, and even in radio sales, from what I understand, it's just high volume. You've got to know your stuff. There isn't room for a whole lot of training.
No.
And the
Mm-mm.
people, there was enough demand there between auto and classified advertising that you needed people to take the orders over the phone and input the stuff. And that's not me. I'm like
Oh, yeah.
this.
Right.
So they didn't need me. And come full circle, I worked for a couple other things and then at Mix Magazine, then found myself without a job, went back into restaurant work. But I landed at the Press Democrat at exactly the right time. And that's where I met Chrissy. And
Mm.
I was going through some other life changes. And that changed the entire trajectory of both of our lives to where she wrote her first book. I've written six. And now we're in this thing with Redwood writers, and Copperfields is here. And now you and I are having a conversation. So that's the whole dynamic for folks, is to keep showing up. I,
Yes.
and they,
Yes. And yes, and this is a yes and thing. Don't also be afraid to quit though. Like I don't
yes.
want to, because I've quit, and this sounds cocky or whatever, but I've quit more dream jobs than people have ever even had. I've quit a
Mm.
lot, like quote unquote, in my business jobs that people would consider a dream job. Because at the end of the day, as much of a dream job, if I'm like feel like I'm being somewhat abused, like if it's not right, I've quit, and I've quit a lot of jobs that people would hold on to for their life. Anyway, so um,
It's really important. I don't want to sugarcoat that many. That's really important. My mom told me something when I actually was interviewing at the Press Democrat. She said, when you get there, tell them when you sit down for the third interview that
right,
if they offer you the job, say, I will do the best job that I possibly can for you, and I'll continue to work here as long as it's working for you and as long as it's working for me.
right.
When that relationship changes, it's time to part ways. And
That's
that's
it. Yeah,
healthy. That's
right.
healthy.
Yeah. But like this, when so I was working before I was at the Crush, I had a great job working for the County of Marin, which I was happy with.
Well,
Um,
what were you doing down there? I'm scanning through your
Yeah, so I was the house manager for all the venues and events over that the county puts on, which includes the Marin County Fair and all the
okay.
events that used to be in the Vet Center, those little venues. And I recruited and oversaw the volunteers program, and yeah, so it was a very like
It's a lot of
cultural
work.
Marin culture. It was a very cool thing, the symphony, all that. But then one day I was just talking to Sheila, my mentor. And I was like, I would love to move back to Sonoma County someday. And she said, if you did, where would you want to work? I said, the only place I'd ever want to work is the Crush. And then, like 2 weeks later, I get a message from my manager, um, who I'd known through not radio stuff, through Uptown, through other relationships. I knew her through other
Hmm.
connections when my predecessor quit. And she's like, do you want to get a drink? And I had just said it out loud. Like I'd actually just said it out loud, and this was a relationship that I had sort of not directly even in my industry that I kept for many years. And that still is the reason why I got this job.
And that's how it works. I actually, when I was between jobs, I got laid off at Mix Magazine from downsizing and a
Right,
host of other things. I was between jobs and I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? I knew how to wait tables. I went out to brunch with my then wife and son at Marvin's on Kentucky Street in Petaluma. And lo and
yeah,
behold, this guy I used to bust tables with at Dominic's down in Santa Fe is there with his wife and kids. And he says, in March, I don't need a resume. I know your work ethic.
right,
Come get me, I'll give you a job. And I
yep,
held that job for 2.5, almost 3 years. I ended up getting his job because he was done and
right.
moved into this position. But you just don't know.
And I've often said, like, I do your resume because it's just a thing to have. But the best jobs I've ever had nothing to do with the resume. You know what I'm saying? Like this job wasn't
Yes.
like somebody sent my resume or she saw my resume. It was because she knew me and thought of me. And the resume was just a formality. And like in your case, like the best things I've ever gotten were from somebody that it wasn't a resume. Point is back to the full circle. It was the relationship. And people can see you like this person. I had done a little bit of house managing, but I ended up getting hired for this like six-figure event management. And I had actually never done specifically that before. But the person
Hmm.
that hired me was like, I can see you have the skill set. You'll learn, you know,
And some employers want that where they can actually train you so that you learn their
exactly.
system.
And they're
And
like, you're gonna be molded in my, I mean, this person was like, I'm gonna mold you in my image.
there you go.
And I'm like, molded away. So yeah,
So going back, you're showing up, keep showing up, don't
showing
be
up.
afraid to quit. It's relationships. What else?
Follow
Just
your passion, follow your gut, and literally, and there are very few times when that's actually the right way to use it. literally your gut is never wrong. Like
I agree.
if you can get in touch with your gut,
Hmm.
with it's your job in your a career, follow that. It just will never, if your gut is like, this is perfect on paper, but something tells me,
Hey, I followed my gut to reach out to you as inviting this, and you
yeah,
responded immediately. I was like, well, I don't really know you. And it's like, you know what? I wanted you on the show. I didn't care. And what's the
yeah.
worst you're going to say? No, I'm sorry.
Right, right. And that's the th I mean, and that's the sort of, okay, here's the other thing. And it's kind of, I have a joke around the office because I always say, yes, it's Mindy's fault. Because I always go, I own the blame. Once you own the no or the blame, it can't hurt you. If I'm like, you're right, I'll always be like, I messed that up. And people look at me and go, yeah, so, and I learned and I moved up. Like now that I've taken the responsibility, how you can't hurt me. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. It's part of the key theme of the books that I write too.
Oh,
It's
sorry. Again, I was, yeah.
well, no, you own it. You have to.
Right,
And so many people want to do this.
right. And then deflect and defend. And that's the worst.
No.
Any, less like I think, you'll see in there, I was a preschool teacher at one time, not
Hmm.
that long ago. And it's because 5-year-olds and I were right here. We understand
Okay.
each other and part of it is because I can, I don't have the pretense that a lot of people and kids like can smell that. They can sense it,
Yeah.
they can sense when you have some whimsy and some silly about you. And I think that in all of this is a really important, that's why we need like not political, but like PBS and all those things. Like we need whimsy. It's important, and theater and all of that, and literature. But
So, speaking of whimsy a little, because I have a tendency to overthink the hell out of everything. It's just part of my nature. I'd like to think that I'm way more spontaneous. I'm not. I'm a planner and I'm also completely spontaneous with other things. But for the folks that coming on this show, I know that there's a lot of people that are hyper analytical and in writing world, there are what you call plotters
right.
and will think to death. I've had a couple on the show. It's like, this is the first podcast I've done. How do I prepare? And I'm like, just
Yeah,
show up. We're gonna have a conversation. So to
exactly.
prep people for talking about themselves, whether they're business owners, small business entrepreneurs, CEOs, or authors and artists, having a lot of people come through as guests on your show, what little one, two, or three things outside of these from a positioning and a presence standpoint might you give them as some pointers?
100%. And I pretty much say it to everybody that comes in, and the authors are so different from the musicians, and it's fun. I enjoy the difference,
Sure.
So when people come in, and I know a lot of authors tend to be a little more introverted or haven't talked before or whatever. And the first thing I say is, it's just you and I having a conversation. You and I are having a conversation about you and your work. This is a time where we're going to talk about you. You know, I go, and if you mess up, it doesn't matter because they don't know you messed up. That's another thing I say. They don't know what you're thinking. If you say blue,
Mm,
they think it's blue. They don't know the difference unless you point out that it's different. And then I try to make a joke and disarm them, and that reminds people they can breathe and have a sense of humor and relax. We're just a couple of people talking.
yeah.
And that's the approach that I would just give anybody for anything, a job interview, anything.
Sure.
Just have a conversation with somebody, because you know your stuff. And in these cases, I would say bullet points or index cards. Don't write a script. Okay.
Mm,
And I would say you could metaphorically use that in life, right? Like when people sit and read because they're nervous, I get that, but that's not giving us the best you or the best listen, right?
right.
It's better even if you stumble, if you're just really talking.
It is, and that's where the magic happens is when you have a conversation. And that's purposely why I try. Sometimes guests want a couple questions. I don't,
Right,
sometimes I'll do it, sometimes I don't. I have an idea of what I want to ask, at
right.
least the frame, but I
Yeah.
want it to happen organically. And before I kind of guide this too much, what else do you want to talk about? Because you've got it, we got another 10, 15 minutes here
Okay.
max. I want to hear what you want to talk about, Mindy.
Well, I will say this, and I don't want to get too deep and too heavy and too serious, but there's now that I'm at a point of, somewhat perceived success, and believe me, it's kind of a big fishish in a small pondish situation, which is great. It's perfect. But anyways, if people knew, like, all right, how much would I say this? There's a redemption story that I have that I haven't fully fleshed out yet. It'll probably be in my memoir in my book. But the point of it being, you have no idea how low and dark a person can be and can still come back from it. Like I have stuff in my past and things, that would take me out of the game probably if I were to divulge or, you know, but point being, it's actually, oh, I mean, it's around mental health and mental health issues. I will say that, and it's becoming more acceptable to talk about. Thank God.
Hmm.
Before in the background where I come from, if you even whisper it, you're afraid. That's it. You're gone. Now people, thank God, have come out and talked. But the point is, those are things that used to count a person out. And now it's a different world. And don't tell yourself that, I mean, you could come back better than ever. Like, I think I'm where I'm at because I'm a late bloomer and because I suffered a lot in childhood and as an adult in a lot of places in my life. I believe that's the light, whatever you want to talk about, that shines
Hmm.
from my pain.
Yeah, and I sense the hesitation there, and I don't want to push you too
No,
deep.
it's okay.
I've done this for almost 40 years, and if is there any one thing that's coming up now that you may or may not have fully that processed that you want to talk about live because this is going to be out there forever. And if not,
Yep,
that's totally cool. But I'm asking you because I'm trusting my gut right now, and there may be one or two things that you are willing and bold and brave enough to share that might help one or two people out there, Mindy. And if
I
not,
would.
it's
Yeah.
totally cool. I'll drop it.
No, it's cool. Well, so I'll start with just on the like first being somebody that was once told like you were the most insecure person I've ever met. I used to hear that all the time as a kid. I was the most insecure person that people had ever met. I'd heard that more than once. When people
Interesting.
now, right? You would think, what? Right? This is a journey that was in my teenage years, earlier life. That's why when my story of moving to California, that's because I was leaving it all behind, right?
All right.
So there was a leaving a me and a past and a leaving that all behind, reinventing myself in the California image. But in my adult life, yes, I've struggled with mental health and hospitalization, and
Okay.
that's a thing that people don't ever, when you're in that, like the darkness of clinical depression and all that, there is no world outside of which where you could do what I'm doing right here. Like, I
Yeah.
couldn't even get out of bed for long stretches. We're talking like Brian Wilson shit. Um,
Holy shit.
yeah. Yeah, and thank God people are out there talking about it now, and people are like, don't ever say anything. And boy, what a feeling that is too, to be like, so this is something I gotta live in shame now about too, on top of it all.
No, but you said it earlier, and I'm just going to replay your words back to you because I agree with them 100%. When we own it and we step into it, it can't hurt us anymore. And that's why I gave you the opportunity and the out to ask you this because at the heart of hearts, it's the biggest thing that helps me with this show is getting to a level where people trust me enough, even if they don't know, to have some real conversations because Chrissy was on here and talked about her food recovery journey. And I'm like, are you sure you want to do this? And she said, "Oh, absolutely." And I'm like, okay, I've
You
had
just
people,
get that out of me. I've never talked about it publicly before, so yeah.
no,
And it's because I obviously feel, and I figured coming on this, I'm aware enough of what you're doing here that it may not just, we're not just talking about our job, so I'm
no.
clear about that. And I do actually want people to look and go, oh my God, like, okay, shit, okay, maybe I could be okay. I could be okay too. Because I will say that when you're in the it's just like you're just under dark water. Like that's it. You can't breathe, you can't get out, you're just under a dark water. And you see these glimpses of people that are like, I was there. And it does help.
And I can relate. It's been a long, long, long time removed, but before I got sober in 86, yeah, 86, 1986, I
Wow.
was there. I was only 22 years old, and I'm like, my whole life's ahead of me, and I feel like it's over.
Right.
And
This
what
is
am I
it.
going to do? And there was no freaking way out. And I fortunately found a way out. But thank you for just being brave enough to share that. I'm honored that you do without having to go into details. And the other side of this, Mindy, is that people get to see you in a different light by you sharing this because it's easy when we're the personality, but they
Yeah,
don't know the person behind the personality.
yeah. Well, I think whatever. I think a lot of for just for me is, a lot of just whatever warmth or empathy or whatever people feel is because of my background, from where all this stuff and where what I kind of bring into and my mom. I have a lot of my mom, who she rest in peace, just in me, But I mean, it's on the one hand, there's a saying like hurt people hurt, right?
Hmm.
So it's like it's almost like an excuse to hurt people, but I think of it more like, you know, anyone who's ever had a heart wouldn't turn around and break it like the other way. Like,
Yeah.
it's not because you're hurt, you want to hurt somebody else. It's, oh, I know what that feels like. So I don't want to hurt you, or I want to be kind to you because I know how shitty that feels.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that all too well too. And it's is there anything else that you have on your mind that you want to share? I'm giving you you have the mic. You don't get to do
We're gonna
this
get the
with your
mic.
guests because it's like this, but you get the mic. You can have a full 7 minutes instead of like
Wow. Okay.
bam, bam, bam.
I mean, I will just, I feel like for me, I mean, I just turned 57. And I'm just now feel like I'm hitting my stride in my career and that everything that I've done in my life, I could kind of look over like a drone and go, oh, this just makes sense. And so like, it sounds cheesy, but don't give up, like keep going. You don't know how many doors, we can live to be old, much older now anyway, or even if we don't live, like it just live to the fullest because the voices, I call them the committee. The committee
Hmm.
never has a good suggestion. Don't
They
listen to
don't.
the committee, right? Like, hire the committee.
I
And
call it the itty bitty shitty committee.
oh, there you go. Yeah, exactly. They're the ones that you're laying in bed, you're like, oh shit, the committee has
Yep.
set up, you know.
Yeah.
But it's never too late. Don't listen to why, like, why should there be a time? First of all, at the way we are in the world, we're all gonna have to work pretty much till the end anyway. So why not keep going, or start the business or whatever it is, do write the book or whatever. Like, there's no cap on it anymore. I feel like it used to be more of a cap, but now there isn't, I
And
mean, dads are like in their 70s, for Christ's sakes.
well, yeah, and a lot of that I think is self-induced and also influenced by culture of what the
Right.
expectations for the days. I mean, now they have these terms, I don't know if you've heard of them, but fractional CEOs, CIOs, CROs.
Oh,
And I'm like, what the fuck is a fractional CEO?
what is,
Does that mean like some guy that just shows up on
like,
Tuesday while he's
okay,
playing golf the rest of the week?
right.
But it's people with leadership skills who have already put in their dues and are there as in a consultative or an advisory position. But the point is, we have wisdom and life experience that we get to share, and we can still keep learning and doing new things. And there is no timeline. That's the main point, right?
Exactly. There's no timeline. There's no, we live in obviously a very different world with media. Like, again, we grew up in a time where the media was controlled by other people. And if we wanted to be in it, we had to hope that they accepted us or our stuff, right?
Hmm.
Now we're here on the World Wide Web because of our computer or your phone or whatever, right? So it's in our hands now. So everything is shifted and different because anything you can create, you could put out into the world.
That's
Jesse Wells, right? He just got nominated for 4 Grammys. A year, like 1 year ago or 2 years ago, he was literally doing TikToks from his, out in the fields in the Ozarks, out, and now he like has billions of followers and is nominated for Grammys. And it all started with him with his camera and his guitar. It's a different world.
it is, and you kind of hit the reality here. Is I made a decision to start this show 2 years ago, and I'm like, how can I do it? I don't know what to do it. How do I set it up? And I asked some people who've done it before, obviously, and put it all together. And here it is, 2 years later, and I'm like, I'm doing it because I love it, and
Right.
it's a radio and a television show wrapped into one thing, and it's called a podcast. But I get to do my own schedule, and it's freaking awesome,
Exactly. And you're just doing what you love. And You're not waiting for anybody to cast you or
No, and hearing about some of the hard stuff too of people who have not given up. I had a guest on this show, I don't know, about 6 or 7 months ago by the name of John Wallace, who goes by Freedom, and he's a musician, he's a heavy rap artist, but he was in San Quentin for 8 years and he came in here and literally poured his guts out.
Yeah,
And I'm like, holy crap. But now what he's doing is he's in recovery. He's out there teaching kids how to record their own demos and going into high schools
yeah,
and getting the grants to put together, take time together the PR and working
yeah,
relationships to get people to support building recording studios in a couple of the high schools down in Marin, and they're recording demos. I'm like, what the? Yeah. And
yeah,
I'm like, they don't have to go to Expression. They don't have to go to Berklee College of Music. They don't have to go spend thousands and thousands of dollars. He's helping make that dream a reality for these teenagers and literally changing their lives where
yeah,
they may be inclined to want to go down the
right.
game or the drug or the bad route because of culture. So to come back to you, I'm glad you're here and I'm glad that you got
Well,
an
yeah. Well,
opportunity.
I mean, I taught high school in South Central and East LA.
I forgot about that. Yes.
And it's funny because, well, I just the other day, my boss, and God love her, she's the best, but she's like, she asked me if I said no to somebody, and I was like, well, and she's like, you were such a pushover, and all I could think of was like, I used to be a badass. I handled kids. I was like, that was a different me. Like I feel like I wear a different, it's a different role, obviously. But I just nobody would know that, and I just let that be and kind of giggle to myself of what I used to deal with. I mean, we're talking gangs, students that were executed, like all kinds of stuff. Um,
I'm glad you brought it up because I meant to ask that and my brain took a vacation and I forgot to come back from it. So,
no, that's fine. It's a different life and a whole different moment that I had. But cherish it. And but as much as that even took, a toughness, it also was my soft, probably center, which is why the kids love me, you know,
mm,
is that they sense, especially these kids in these you want to talk about tough situations, kids growing
yeah.
up in gang violence and poverty and all the stuff. And the hardest shelled kids are the ones that had the worst
Yeah.
always, but not shocking, right? But like people kind of forget. But they just want to be loved at the end of the day. So if you come at them with, tough but with love, I mean, they respond to that. So
And that's a good spot to kind of wrap this show too, because I think whether tough, hard-shelled kids living in a situation that they didn't necessarily choose, it's just what is, to our own backgrounds and wherever those backgrounds are. But at the end of the day, all of us, any of us really want is just to belong and we want to be loved, and that's kind of the heartbeat of everything is without that, what the hell is there,
and just a reminder, I was talking about my mentor Sheila. I'm glad she was my first mentor because she leads with love and she's kindness and she's a good person. And people always say you have to be a B or this in this business. No, you don't. And once you realize you don't, then it's like I don't accept it. So in any business, though, I again like take that. You don't have to be a jerk. You can still be a
No,
good person.
no, I just outlined, I spent 2.5 hours this morning outlining a three-book series, and the first one that just landed on my heart was learning to lead with love. And it's not talked about. It's almost frowned upon, like you were talking about earlier, of these expectations of you need to be at this certain point in your lifetime or your career. And it's like, no, you don't. It's you get to be yourself. So, Mindy, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Oh my God, taking time out of your vacation to jump on a podcast with me, even after you won
Myself.
the best DJ in the North Bay by the Bohemian newspaper. It's also part of the Pacific Sun. It's been a delight. And folks, tune in to Mindy in the Morning on KRSH Radio 95.7. Is that right?
25/9.
95.9.
Yeah.
And you are on air when?
Monday through Friday, 6 to 10.
6 to 10.
Yeah.
Drive time. Mindy in the
Yep. Drive
Morning.
time in the morning. Yeah. Wake up, have your coffee, and wake up with me.
And on Tuesdays from 8:30 on, or no, yeah, not 8:45.
Yeah. We have Get Lit. Yeah,
get
with the
lit
Redwood
with,
writers and Copperfields.
yeah. So you get to hear
Yeah.
from some local authors because she's kind enough to interview them on air for 7 minutes and they get to talk like we're talking here, only they can only get 7 minutes. So
They can have 8 to 10, but don't tell anyone.
say it again.
They can have 8 to 10 minutes, but don't tell anyone.
No, let's keep it at seven because that way you have room to cushion it.
Happy. Thank you so much. Yeah, exactly.
Mindy, thank you, folks. This has been Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You. I'm your host, Sean Langwell. Keep coming back because this show is starting to take off. Last week and the week before, it's gotten over 200% more downloads, and I'm just kind of blown away at the growth. And it's because of people like Mindy who are willing to show up and have a real conversation for half an hour, 45 minutes. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.